Now, Mr. President, on another shorter issue, I want to bring up something that deals with something I deal with a lot, what we call oversight, to make sure that we have transparency through our government, because transparency brings accountability. And there's something we're having a hard time getting answers on. On July 30th of this year, Senator Johnson of Wisconsin and I sent a letter to the White House counsel. That letter was based on media reports, yes, media reports, that then Vice President Biden used private emails for government business. If that happened, that's wrong, and we ought to know about it. As part of that use, he sent government information to his son, Hunter Biden. The news reports provided details about then Vice President Biden's email addresses at that time and the fake names that he used for that email. As one example from the reported emails, in 2016, an employee of the Office of the Vice President emailed Biden his schedule and copied Hunter Biden. In another email in 2016, that same employee reportedly emailed Vice President Biden about early morning preparation for a 9 a.m. phone call with the Ukrainian president. Hunter Biden was again reportedly copied on that email. As we all know, Hunter Biden served on the board of a corrupt Ukrainian energy company at the time of these emails. Certainly, Hunter Biden would have been quite interested in any and all information relating to the U.S. government's communication with the Ukrainian government. Now, if these reports are accurate, it's unclear whether Vice President Biden forwarded related emails to a government account to satisfy federal record-keeping requirements. Kind of sounds familiar, doesn't it? Just remember the same issues came up with Hillary Clinton. Given Vice President Biden's apparent pattern and practice with government emails, Senator Johnson and I would like to know if this pattern and practice has continued as President of the United States. That's why, on July 30th, as I indicated, Senator Johnson and I exactly that question. First, we ask, quoting from the letter, what steps did then Vice President Biden take to ensure that all his government emails and related communications were properly stored and archived, end of quote. In other words, did they follow the law? Second, we ask, and I quote, does President Biden use non-government emails to communicate government business or email his family members government information? If so, what steps have been taken to ensure that those communications satisfy federal record-keeping and archival requirements, end of quote. Now, these sound like pretty simple questions that President Biden can answer quickly. Moreover, it would be quite easy for the president to deny reports if these reports were not accurate. Our letter provided President Biden that opportunity. To date, we haven't received a response. In fact, as you can tell from July 30th, it's been nearly 3 months. In fact, the fact that the White House counsel's office and President Biden can't find time to answer these threshold questions draws suspicion. One would think that the White House would gladly answer that the president isn't using government email to communicate government business with family members. Now, wouldn't one think that the White House would very gladly say that it's properly archiving email records? This is a matter of transparency, and it's a matter of transparency that the public deserves answers. I yield. You want me to suggest the absence of a quorum? Absence of a quorum.
Senator from Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this morning the Majority Leader came to the floor of the Senate to talk about the Democrats' reckless tax and spending bill. Now, he repeated the claim that the bill would actually reduce inflation. It won't. Just like the claim the President makes that the cost of the bill will be zero. The American people know that that's not true either. The Majority Leader asked a question. He asked why not a single Republican would support the bill. Well, I'm happy to respond to the Majority Leader and explain why the American people and the Republicans are rejecting what the Democrats are trying to force through the Congress. So I come to the floor today to talk about rising prices. Next Thursday will be the most expensive Thanksgiving ever. As the New York Times put it, the Thanksgiving dinner will wallop your wallet. Turkey prices are up 25 cents on the dollar so far this year. Prices for meat, poultry, fish, eggs are up more than 10 cents on the dollar in just 1 year. Companies like Nestle and Procter & Gamble, well, they put out warnings that they are raising their prices. Who would have thought that in just 10 short months of the Biden presidency, we could set a record, a 30-year high record for inflation? Millions of families this year will sit down for Thanksgiving dinner. And in addition to eating turkey, families around the table will also be talking turkey. They're going to have difficult conversations about how to make ends meet. According to one estimate, families are now paying about $175 more every month because of inflation for the same things they were getting before Joe Biden became president. This works out to a $2,000 bite out of the paychecks annually of every working American. So what's happening? Why is it happening? Happening for at least three reasons. First, Joe Biden's incompetence and mismanagement has caused the worst supply chain disruption in at least 40 years. Now, the supply chain crisis is largely the result of a labor shortage. Last week, the New York Times called the shortage of truck drivers, not of trucks, but of the drivers, the single biggest cause of the supply chain crisis. We don't have enough goods in large part because we don't have enough workers. This is the worst labor shortage in American history. There are more than 10 million jobs which have gone unfilled in recent months. We've broken new records for unfilled jobs in 5 of the last 9 months that Joe Biden has been in office. This isn't a coincidence. This is happening because of the policies that have been put in place by the Democrats in this administration. In March, President Biden and the Democrats extended a bonus payment to people who stayed home from work. Millions of people made more money by staying home instead of going to work. Well, in September, the bonus payment ran out. Then President Biden announced a nationwide vaccine mandate on the American people. Having been traveling around the state of Wyoming this past week, I will tell you it is a mandate that is taking a sledgehammer to the American workforce. Now, I fully support vaccination. I'm a doctor. I'm vaccinated. So are all the members of my family. I am pro-vaccine and anti-mandate. Imposing new mandates on workers during an unprecedented labor shortage is complete incompetence. Now, this mandate is only making the supply chain crisis worse. The President must have known that many would not comply with this mandate. He must have known people would be forced out of their jobs by his mandate. Didn't seem to faze him. He imposed the mandate anyway. Now, people are losing their jobs, shelves are empty, and prices continue to go up. The second major reason why prices are rising is President Biden's war on American energy. Thanksgiving is traditionally one of the busiest travel times, weekends in the year. AAA estimates that more than 50 million Americans will take to the highway and travel next week. It's pretty standard for a Thanksgiving weekend. Those who drive will pay a lot more for gas than they did last year, the year before. It's the highest in 7 years. Gas prices are up about $1 a gallon in the number of months that President Biden has been in office. It's more expensive to travel, and it's getting more expensive also to stay warm. 1 in 5 American families has already cut spending to pay for an energy bill in the last year. Winter's coming, it's going to get worse. Some will have to choose between whether they can heat their home or whether they can eat a meal. Prices are so high, 11 Democrat senators are now pleading with the president to bring down gas prices. So what's Joe Biden's solution? Well, he admits he has no solution. He says gas prices are going to stay high until the springtime. One of the president's top nominees for the Treasury Department says she wants to, quote, starve American oil and gas. She actually said that in her mind, she says, oil and gas companies to go bankrupt. She's the nominee to be the controller of the currency. The Secretary of Commerce was asked what the administration was doing to lower energy prices. Couldn't name a single thing. The Secretary of Energy apparently thinks high gas prices are funny. She was asked what she could do to increase oil production in America. She laughed and said, "That's hilarious." The Secretary of Transportation also thinks it's funny. He's joking around that people need to start Christmas shopping early this year. So there you have the elites of the Biden administration, the elites of America, the people that he has chosen to run these agencies. They think it's funny. It's no laughing matter for the working families of Wyoming or all across America. So who gets hurt by high prices? The poor, people living on fixed incomes, families struggling to get by. Working families cannot afford what the Democrats are offering. Since Joe Biden became president, prices have gone up much faster than wages. In other words, the American people have taken a cut in the spending value of their paychecks. They can buy less with the same amount of money. And even if they've gotten a bit of a raise, the prices are taking a greater and greater bite out of that paycheck. So as we approach Thanksgiving, Democrats in Washington want to spend like it's already Black Friday. Democrats seem to think every day is Black Friday. When you take a look at this reckless tax and spending bill, where every page is over $1 billion of spending. They've already put $2 trillion on the credit card earlier this year. Now, this is in addition to the bipartisan coronavirus relief that the Senate passed last year. But for Democrats, there's never enough spending. Taxing and spending. It's an addiction. They want to print more money. They want to spend more money. And right now, Democrats are pushing a reckless tax and spending bill which will make inflation in this country even worse. Democrats say that the bill that they're proposing in the House right now will cost $2 trillion. The Congressional Budget Office will give a final report at the end of the week. Experts say if all of the programs that they're proposing were to stay in place for the full 10 years of the budget system, the price is much closer, if not exceeding, $4 trillion. So if the Democrats pass this bill, we're talking about more spending, more debt, and higher prices. We're also, of course, talking about more taxes that ultimately will hit everyone in this country, one way or the other. Last week, the New York Times reported, quote, many researchers say the bill is structured in a way that could add to inflation next year, not just this year, next year as well. Experts say this bill could increase the cost of child care by up to $13,000 for each and every family in America whose children need that care. Now, this is already one of the biggest expenses on working families. The bill could nearly double that. And of course, Democrats' spending spree would add over $400 billion of taxes on America's small businesses, the mom and pop businesses in the communities all around this country. Interestingly, at a time of high energy costs, and we had a hearing about this morning in the Energy Committee, trend in prices on energy. Astonishingly, what the Democrats are proposing at this time are the highest natural gas prices in 7 years, and a tough season coming for the cost of heating oil and heating gas. This could raise taxes on American natural gas as well when prices are at a 7-year high. What happens to these costs, these taxes? Well, of course they get taxed on, headed on, and handed off to consumers in the form of higher prices. Democrats pass this bill. The American people are going to pay more at the pump, more at the store, and more on tax day. So last week, the Nonpartisan Tax Policy Center said this bill would raise taxes on nearly a third of middle-class families. Didn't Joe Biden say he wasn't going to do that? Well, who's right? The President of the United States, whose approval is at an all-time low and only 21% of Americans think the country is in the right direction, or the Tax Policy Center that says that a third of all middle-class families will end up paying more taxes if this is signed into law? This is a blatant violation of the President's campaign promises. The last thing the American people need right now is higher taxes, more debt, and higher prices. The last thing the American people need is this reckless tax and spending spree. It is no wonder that 71% of Americans think our country today is on the wrong track. And this includes many Americans who actually voted last November for Joe Biden. What do the American people want? Well, they want us to produce more American energy so they can pay less for energy. They want us to make it easier for people to get back to work. They want higher wages and lower prices. That's not what we're hearing from the Democrats. And so that's my response to the majority leader when he asked why not a single Republican would support this reckless tax and spending spree. With Thanksgiving coming, we need to stop this reckless spending cold turkey. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.